Okay, so good morning, everyone, and welcome to the next series, the next part of the webinar series under a voluntary dipterocarp seed project. So the reason why we started up this project was because we realized that there are so many people out there, all of you guys, who are really interested to know how you can help and more about Malaysia's dipterocarp seeds. So today we have Benny, who will be covering handling dipterocarp seeds and managing the germination flow in the
Hi.
nursery. So Benny manages the nursery in Nursery in Sabah. He's got about 6 years experience of managing the dipterocarp seeds there. Yeah, and he's going to share with us more about the protocols and how to care for these seedlings. So take it away, Benny.
Thank you, Abza. Hi,
Oh,
everybody. My name is Benny, Benny Banus Tuzan. Uh, been handling a TRLC Merasuli project since the start up of this project back in 2015. So, uh, our nurseries specialize on focusing on germinating dipterocarps or propagating dipterocarps by uh, setting up a nursery flow and also productions of seedling for restoration and reintroduce back to their habitats. So uh, we can see the next slide. Me with a uh, one of our seedlings species, growing cobis, or we can call it dipterocarpus confatus, having a huge leaf after hardening, even they are in the polybags. So this is what we are going to achieve throughout the sessions, how to produce a good planting material, especially the trocap, in the nursery. Okay, we can take a look briefly about how the setup in nursery in at Mersuli Lada to Sabah. You can see the next page. So this is basically our nursery in TRLC Mersuli project. We have a germination area, um, transplanting area, hardening, and as well as stock keeping area. And of course, for a nursery to set up, the most important thing is water source. We have 3 water source to keep our water supply for this nursery. And this nursery is in the middle of Barsoli Forest Reserve in Ladatu. So we try to keep our nursery as close as the restoration area as possible to avoid a lot of logistics going on, and we can get this seedling reintroduced to their habitat easily. So, okay, in our operation in TRC Mersuli, the objective is quite simple. We try to increase the germination rate of the dipterocarp seed collected from the field or the forest reserve. As we know, in the wild, seeds, dipterocarp seeds might have challenges. They might have infestations of pests, infestations of fungus, even predatorship in the wild. So our objective is to collect and increase the rate of germinations and also uh, to get more uh, seedling stocks to be supplied in the future. Yeah. And the second one is to identify quality of seed source. So in the collections progress, every mother tree are being identified and is recorded. And every seed collected from one mother tree will be monitored. So we want to see which mother tree produce the premiums qualities. That means uh, better seed quality and also high germination rate. Of course, in the coming progress during the hardening, we want to see their grow rates and also how well they will compete to each other to achieve high. This is what we call sorting out the best genetics among the mother tree in variety of locality. And the third one, to improve survival rate of seedling. So in the wild, there might a lot of challenge for seedling to achieve maturity or even to survive among all the seed because of the challenge of predatorship and also infestation. And of course, even they germinate, can they survive the weather? Can they survive the attack from wildlife? So here we try to improve the survival rate so that they can actually achieve their populations in this forest reserve. To prepare quality planting material for ex situ and in situ planting. This is what we are focusing on, to have a seedling stocks for planting material in the future. Once the seedling is well prepared, healthy, and can survive in the wild, during the introductions, we can cut off the monitorings or cut off the maintenance because they can survive by adapting to their new environments. Okay. So we can see the next flow, nursery flow. So before the seed come in, there are few preparation we need to do. That is preparing your nursery setup. So in TRC Nursery during my 6 years of uh, operations, we have to prepare seed bed. Yeah, seed bed is very critical. And after that, then only go for seed collections. We do not want to prepare the seed bed when the seed come in, because seed bed need some extra workout so that the seed bed is safe for the seed to come in. Then seed collection, seed processing, and seed sowing. Yeah. After sowing, we go for germination monitoring and only go for polybag preparations. Yeah. And after monitoring the germination, there will be a part where we have to select seedling from the nursery bed to be transplant. Then go for seed hardening. After that, seedling selection for planting. So we will go through all this flow one by one throughout these presentations. And if you have questions, you can just type in so we can actually uh, detail out or discuss how we do it in Nursery. Yeah? Okay, let's go for the preparation of seed bed. So there's a few type of seed bed that we went through or we uh, go through during the 6 years of operations. Yeah? The first one, the easiest one that we implement back in 2015 to 2017 is the setup of grounded seed bed, where we put set up a frame and put a stand on it. The dimension is quite easy, 6 inch height, 4 feet times 8 feet seat bed, and definitely the wooden plank treated with paint or antifungus, and also a treated sand. Yeah? River sand is uh, recommended as compared to those beach sand or the saltwater sand, because we cannot skip the washing or keep the progress of treating the sand. The pros the advantage of setting this is very easy to set up and very low cost on getting this done. But there is some disadvantage that we have encountered in the early stage of germinations. It takes more effort, or it takes a lot of technical things to handle and monitoring seed germinations, because it's exposed to the ground. So we have higher fungus infections, mold infections, and also uh, have troubles monitoring for pest control. Yeah, and during the germinations, uh, not all seeds germinate the same time. Some seeds will germinate faster, and some seeds will germinate slower. And those that germinate faster will tend to overgrown and penetrate into the ground. And during the penetrations, it will cause a lot of damage to the root system during transplant. And of course, the worst part will be during rainy season, you will have troubles handling or controlling the moist content in the seed bed. And this cause a lot of root damage, infestations of fungus or root fungus. And yeah, you might have risk the chance of germinating the batch of collections. Okay, so we go to the next one, the one that we are using right now, the elevated seed bed. Yeah. The same size, uh, 4 x 8 feet uh, wide and 6 inch uh, height of the bed, but the entire bed is elevated 4 feet from the ground. Yeah. In our operation, we use purlins instead of using wooden plank, because purlin is easy to handle, um, and also lightweight, and we can actually avoid any uh, infestation of fungus through these purlin frameworks. And BRC needed to become their base, and a woven layout, or we can use the gunny or you can use the whatever that can actually hold the sand and filter waters out of it, yeah, and treated river sand. So in the elevated seed bed, we can see the operation is much easier for our staff. You don't have to bend down, you just have to monitor by standing, and of course you can set up anything on top of it, and easy to access, effective throughout pest control, mold control, fungus control, and also moist control. Yeah, because during the operations of watering, sometimes the water do not penetrate well when you go for ground seed bed. Yeah, and it will actually clog in the seed bed. But in this, excess water will drip underneath. Yeah? But the disadvantage is you will need a high initial material cost, yeah? Where you have to invest extra on the structure. But it will last longer as compared to the one that are sitting on the bed, on the ground. Yeah? Because your wooden plank will not damage so soon as compared to the one that sitting on the ground. This seed bed in Merasuli had been operated since 2017 and still using the same setup and the same material. The only thing that we change is the sand. Yeah. So we go for the next one, the preparation of seed bed. Yeah. Sand will be treated with fungicide. Yeah. Normally, we treat it before we actually lay it down on the seed bed. This is prepared for the media to avoid infestation of fungus, mold, and also to remove any pathogens on it. You can use herbicides. You can use by heating. The heating will actually help to kill most of the uh, pathogens in this sand media. Some sand might need to be treated with lime to actually control the pH, because not every sand source is the same. And for river sand might be easier to handle as compared to saltwater sand, where you have to wash it, rinse it, and as well dry it before you can actually use it. Okay. Then the seed source. Okay. This is part of our operation that are critical. Uh, During every expeditions for seed collection, the seed must reach the facility maximum 3 days, because some seed will germinate on the tree, and make sure the seed that collected are fresh fruits. Mean fresh fruit or fresh seed is the one actually we shake from the tree. But sometimes in certain condition, all these seeds already fallen, and we collect it from the ground. That's exposed to a lot of pathogens and also pests, especially a borer. They might be inside the seed. So we need to identify uh, and also sort out the seed from the fresh from the tree and the seed collected from the ground. And they will be handled carefully by germinations to prevent germination's root damage. Some seed germinate in the back during the collections. So make sure the seed is moist before travel back to facility. And when it reach to the facility, we need to sort out which seed is infested with insect and which seed is infected with fungus. Then we will treat it accordingly. So the seeds process and treatment. So the next seed process and treatment. Uh, Next slide, please. Dipterocarpaceae come with their wings, and some of it come with the dirt, especially the one that already fall on the ground. And you can see that in the pictures, there's some seed with very long roots coming out, germinate out from their seed. So we need to sort it out, how to treat them. Yeah. So sorting out, we need to sort out by floating the seed to look out which seed is viable and non-viable. So when you soak in the water, you can see two types of seed. The one that float on the surface of the water, and the one that sink on the bottom. The one that sink in the bottoms indicate that seed is uh, very good and fresh. Definitely, there are no hollow inside. The one that flat on the surface, they indicated there's hollow inside, but it doesn't mean it will not germinate. Some seed will germinate even they are hollow inside. This is due to the infestation of borers or caterpillars inside. So what you can do is soak it, and in my words is to kill the bug inside or to kill the caterpillar inside before doing the germination to go for the germination part. Okay, so the next one will be after the sorting out, then only go for fungicide treatment. Okay, the fungicide treatment actually reduce the chances of infestation of fungus. Yeah, fungus they do damage on the seed, but the worst part is when during the germination, it damage the shooting and the rooting. So to prevent that to happen, we should clean fungicide. In our case, we use Anthrocol, and also looking out the chances of seed. Sometimes they're hollow, they will flat on the surface, so you can sort it out by germinating two parts. One is the one that's sitting on the bottom, and one is the one uh, flat flatted on the surface. You will see how the germination rate for the one at the sink on the bottom and the one that are flat on the surface. And this come to our next one, sowing seed to the germination bed. So for dipterocarp, uh, germinations take place on the surface of the ground. So during the sowing, we do not bury the seed. We simply just arrange the seed on the surface, half buried. Yeah. So this will help to speed up the germination and as well increase a good germination rate. And for some seed, might need some conditions. In our case, in this scenario, I'm highlighting for the Parasoria. Yeah, Parasoria might need Parasoria melanonan is a bit technical because they need heat and they need shade to germinate well. So in this photo, we put up UV plastic to cover up to imitate the forest temperatures, to heat up the germination bed. And of course, for melanonans, Parasoria melanonan, they cannot be overexposed. So in this case, we shade out 90% of light, yeah, to speed up or to imitate the forest under canopy. So we come up with the seed monitoring. So during the germinations, it takes sometimes around 1 to 2 months to monitor the proper germinations. Yeah. In this case, we can see even germinations of seed on the seed bed. And of course, you have to document it uh, to put a record where the mother tree come from and how the germination rate, and of course the performance of growth for this seed collected. Yeah? And of course, the every batch of germinations might have some uh, weakness or what we call it cacat. Yeah? So in this case, we identified some difficulties for seed where some seed germinate but do not shoot, yeah, because of over exposed to light. This is the one that I'm saying when they are overexposed, the germinations and the shoot will not develop into leaf. And that's where we need to find out or look out for solution, either to shoot shade it up more on the side, because most of this unsuccess germination is happen at the corners where the light penetrates in. Yeah. So monitoring and improvise our germination bed to improve our germination process. So every batch of seed coming in will have different performance or uh, different uh, feedback from the tree to us. Always look out how well is the seed react to the setup. Yeah. Doesn't mean one setup fit all species. Some species might need more light, some species need more heat, and some species might need more water. So look out for that criteria and set up for every germinations on seed batch. Okay, so during the germination take about 1 to 2 months, then we can prepare the polybag media. So polybag media play the uh, critical part during this preparation, because uh, the seedling after transplant will stay on the bag for years, sometimes up to 2 to 3 years, especially dipterocarpaceae. So we need to make sure the soil media is well prepared to accommodate this seedling during the transplant. So in our project, we prepared three main media: soil, organic fertilizers. In our case, we use goat dung or tai kambing, and lime to control pH or enhance the pH on the soil. In our site, most of this top soil is very hard to get by. So we get uh, the open area soil or degraded soil, where we will have a lot of difficulty, where they don't have much nutrient on it. So what we can supply is organic fertilizers or goat dungs, and lime is to control the pH within 6 to 7.5. Yeah. So preparation of this media need to be prepared 1 month earlier. And my advice, the soil that collected, do expose it to the environments. What I mean by expose it to environment means let it expose to sun, let it expose to water, uh, even let it expose to wheat, means grass grow on it. Because once you know that the grass grow on the soil, means the soil is viable for planting. And there is scenario that we have encountered before. We keep soil under shade or keep soil in a confinement for preparations. Yeah, but unfortunately, all this soil are not viable. Why I can say that? The soil is dried up or dehydrated and become non-functioning. Means it doesn't keep any moist, it can't keep any microbe on it, the microbe can't grow in it, and it takes a lot of time for this soil to recover to accommodate seedling. And what our monitoring during that day is those seedling that being transplanted into this dehydrated soil intend to grow slower, and of course it will how to say, slow in shooting. What I can monitor is the soil itself is become, those clay that are being fired up and lost its function. So water go into those dehydrated soil, we absorb most of the water and become hardened when it dry up. So make sure soil are exposed to the environment. Let the environment take its place to recover the soil. Yeah. So the next one. Ah, okay. The main function of media, the polybag media, is to accommodate roots. So pH is critical, and fertilizer is a supplement to accommodate microbes and also to help root system to absorb all these nutrients from the soil. So once the root established, definitely the entire system of the seedling will be healthy, yeah? Especially when the micro root start to develop, and you can monitor it by the seedling shooting. That's the easy way to understand how your seedling react to your media. If when you transplant and your seedling doesn't shoot or the leaf doesn't develop, that means something wrong with the media that caused the root unable to establish. So always monitor to the reaction of the transplanted seedling. Okay, the next, okay, this is some of the specimens, some of the specimens that we collected from our germination bed. The early stage of uh, germination, we'll see a well roots developments, and the cotyledons still attached, and the shooting is developing. So there will be some cases shoot doesn't develop due to the parameter of the germination bed. And if you can see from 1 to 3 is developments or the germinations period on the seed bed. Okay? And when you go to the 4th step and the 5th step, that means the entire seedling is ready for transplant. But of course, some cases, if you look the figure number 4, the early branching, this is one of the criteria that we need to monitor. If this mother tree source is good, whether there are early branchings percentage in the seed bags is high or low. So to get a good seedling, we always look out for one single box, means there's no early branchings in the germination periods, because if there is early branching, high probability after transplant the seedling will have a lot of branch, and they will have a lot of treatment need to be to handles by doing removing the branching to develop one single uh, box. Okay, this is how we always do. We look out for seedling in the nursery bed, roughly about uh, six 6 inch and above, 6 inch and above, ready to be transplanted into polybags. So make sure the roots that when removed from the seed bed is taking care of. What I mean is only do transplant early in the morning or late in the evening, around 4 to 5, where the ambient temperature surrounding is still uh, low, means there's no heating or there's no dry. Look out for temperature that's suitable and make sure the polybags that need to be transplant is well moist. We don't want to plant it into a dry media. You actually suffocate the root when transplant. Yeah? And make sure all the root part are being submerged or buried into the media. After transplant, of course, you need to cut off half of the leaf. Yeah? The the most critical part is to contain or to control the water contained in the seedling itself. Do not let it to dehydrate it. Okay? That's why you need to cut off the leaf into half to reduce transpirations from the tree, the seedling, and of course you need to water and moist up your media before transplant. And after transplant, do one time of watering, and during the 3 weeks period, always monitor the moist content in the media. What I mean by moist content means as long as the uh, media is wet, is good, but don't overwater it until it's dripping. You will suffocate the seedling. Normally in TRC nursery, we will do uh, twice a day watering during the hot season, and during the rainy season we will skip a lot of this watering, but we monitor for water retention in the polybag, because when water is retained inside the polybag, that means the polybag is not the soil media is not pore, is poreless. There's no pore for them to remove water. Okay, this is part of our transplanting activity in Mersuli. Even we also do some educations to volunteers and also public to do this education on how to do transplanting, handling seedling, and also handling germination bed. So most of the transplanting, we also always keep it under the shade of 70 to 80%. Yeah? Don't overexpose to light because during this period of time, this seedling is very sensitive to overheating and light. You know? And of course, keep the moist content optimal. Okay. After transplant treatments, to promote shooting, yeah, just what I said, prevent overheating, keep the moist content optimal, and definitely during our operation, keep your seedling stock diverse. Yeah. Why I say keep your seedling stock diverse means you transplant during the transplant, do not do one single transplant operation, because during pest infestation, if you have one single species on the nursery, you will have entire infestations uh, out of control. In Nursery, we always have 4 to 10 species in one-time transplant. And this actually help out a lot in controlling pest infestations. And in Nursery as well, we do not use pesticide, but we encourage just leave the biological control intact. Means you leave the ants around, you leave the spiders around, and sometimes there is even wasps in the nursery. This will help to control caterpillars populations in check. Okay. Once the seedlings have reached out period of time where they good enough for hardening. The hardening part is where you encourage the seedling to develop more how say thicker leaf, and also they to achieve more height in the exposure of uh, direct sun. So during this progress, we cannot just put seedling directly to the sun. So what you can do is actually part of this remove part of the leaf, and then only expose or transfer them to the open area, and make sure do watering frequently. When seedling go for direct sun, they will have burn. That is quite normal, and they will wilt. But to prevent them from dying is to encourage them to develop harder or thicker leaf by removing part of their leaf, and they will grow new shoot. Once their shoot is developed, that's that an indicator uh, that this seedling capable to adapt open uh, open area. So it takes uh, it takes me 3 years to understand the reaction of seedling throughout every step. So what we can do here is always monitor your seedling uh, habits when transplanting. Okay, so in hardening there will be uh, three hardening parts. Yeah? The one that coming out from the shade to open area, the first one. The second one is uh, to encourage uh, the good development or the bud development. Every time when you cut the leaf or cutting pruning to remove branches, you increase the guts or the bud diameters. And the third one will be hardening before go to planting. So every seed every seedling need to harden before they travel for planting on the field. So this will increase the chances of survival or increase the survival rate in the wild, because every time they adapt a new environment, the first thing will be in shock is the root. And when the root in shock, or and the development of seedling will be slowed down. But when we do hardening, the root adaptation will be increased because we remove part of the leaf to to control the dehydrations from the seedlings. Yeah. So here the three stage of hardening. Hardening, the first stage is to cut half of the leaf and early branching. to promote height and growth, and new shoot. The second, hardening for undershade 70% to full sun exposure. And the third one, hardening set for grown seedlings 3 feet and above. In Merasuli, we have a batch of seedlings that hardens and as well as to improve their height before going into the forest, especially our living collections. We keep it a big polybags, and as well as to increase their bulk, just like what in the photos. Okay, sealing hardening process done is to increase sealing trunk diameter and to keep longer in the nursery. And seedling hardening process for planting, just what I said. Okay. This is the last part, seedling selections. Every planting might have different objective. Yeah. In Merasuli, we have two objectives. One is for restorations, and one is for living collections. For restoration, normally we take seedling that 3 feet and above. Means they are viable to travel to longer distance and also lightweight to carry. For living collections, we sometimes have a big bag, which the, the trunk is already big enough for the living collections plots. So identify suitable height for your seedling and for your objective you want to plant. Choose healthy seedling for planting, means you look at their trunk girth and seedling height of, and also number of branching. We want them to have branch, but make sure the branch that available is not overcome the branch at the canopy. Sometimes when we put into a dense area or dense uh, place for stocking, the branch will develop better to catch sunlight, and you lose the height. So make sure what is which branch to prune to improve height. Choose suitable size bag for planting location. As I said, there is some bag in Merasuli achieved until 24 to 22 size, and some bags might as well 6x9, which easy to travel. So select your seedling according to your objective. Okay, the next one, the challenge in handling nursery. Okay, in Merasuli we have encountered the long drought in 2019. Will last about 7 months until we finish up our water stock in the project site. We have to pump water 1 kilometer away from the main river just to keep our stock survive. So make sure facility is well prepared for unplanned condition like this long dry season. Yeah, pest attack. Sometimes pest attack wouldn't be so. Pest attack will not be so harmful if you manage to control it. That's why I encourage diverse stocking. Once you have pest attack, okay, find a solution. In our side, we do not use pesticide. We only identified all these species where they are infested, cut the leaf expose the leaf that with the caterpillars on it to the open area, attract the bird to come in. So let the birds to do their part. Yeah? And even other biological control will help in controlling this. And the next challenge is skilled staff handling nursery work. So as I said, uh, working with seedling is to looking at the seedling reaction and performance during that period of time. So means there's no certain exact method. This method is suitable for every species. So you need to train staff to monitor uh, this seedling performance or seedling reaction throughout the progress. Every seedling species different reactions and also different performance and might need different engagements throughout their preparation of this media, handling, watering, and so on. And the worst part was the weeding progress. Weeding sometimes took most of our manpower, especially during rainy season, because our polybag is full of nutrients, and you do not want this nutrient to be utilized by weed. So controlling weed is means on the polybag is mean that handling it manually by weedings by hand. Of course, the last part limitation of fund for operations. We are working under funds, and fund is a critical part to perform and also to do more research or more monitoring for every species performance through these methodologies. And lastly, I would like to thank you to Sabah Forestry Departments to have us around, and as well Yasan Santabi to support us throughout these operations. So anything you have in mind, any questions, please welcome, and I will do my best to find the solutions and answer for your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Benny, for that enlightening presentation. There's a lot of questions that people are asking in the chat box, so I'm just gonna pick them out for you. Question
Definitely.
from Lee. What is the frequency and amount of water that's required daily?
Okay. For watering, depends on the age of seedlings. Yeah. For transplanted seedling, nearly just freshly transplanted, normally the frequency will be uh, one in the morning, one in the evening. So do not water transplanted seedling during noon, yeah, because it will actually causing heat shock on the seedling. So for established seedling which already hardened, once a day is enough. Yeah? It means once in the morning is enough, except is when it's during heavy rain, then you don't need to water it. But make sure it's done in early in the morning.
Okay, question from Hyrule. If the seeds collected have already started to germinate, like in the image you showed earlier, do you also soak that with fungicide too?
Yes, we soak it in the fungicide as well. So because root that exposed to ground and handling throughout the progress, we already exposed a lot of pathogens. So the only safe way is to actually treat them first before sowing to the germination bed.
Okay. Question from DeFroy. Any recommendations for watering regime control at hardening stage and at full sun?
Okay, for hardening stage in full sun, just like I say, uh, after exposing, make sure that within that 3 weeks, always make sure the media is always moist. Means do not let it be hydrated and you will cause shock. Yes. So to prevent that, monitor every day in the morning how moist is the media on the polybag, and always do routine watering in the morning.
Question from Sharon. What is the percentage of germination and survival rate during hardening before transplant?
Before transplant, after transplant, or before transplant?
Rate of germination, I guess. So like good success germination rate.
Okay. In our case, the best germination rate that we have, without sorting out whether they are good germination or not bad germination, is about 80 to 95% germination rate, which the one that sink on the bottom. Yeah, the seed that sink on the bottom will have higher rate of germination. For the seed that float on the surface, you have about 30% of germination. So that's why I always sort it. You germinate both to get the seed qualities, because we know that if you mix, then overall you already germinate those non-viable seeds on the bed. But don't reject all these non-viable, germinate them as well. Sometimes they do have some germination rate on.
Okay, question from Carolyn. How long will the stage 3 hardening take, i.e. what's the shortest time possible for hardening stage 3?
Okay, hardening of stage 3, if you're not moving the seedling around, you just do hardening, you will just take about 1 month, you will develop into a better shoot and canopy. That's good enough. But if you're moving the polybag to one locality, one place to another place, that means you're moving the root. Yeah. So every time you're moving means you're actually disturbing this root system. The root system, the one that actually make the three canopies established and shooting. Yeah. So as long you do your hardening to increase the girth, don't move the seedling back. That means you can actually achieve the outcome within 1 month. You can see the new shoot coming up on the canopy, and you can see the bark is actually start to expand and so on. Because every time we do hardening on phase 3, we prune the extra branch. We actually remove part of the leaf, and eventually the water contained in the seedling actually improve the mass of the body. So the root, the one actually play the role there. So if you're not moving it, that means it's achieve more. But if you're moving it, you take another month, in 2 months time, to re-establish the root system, and then only supply the water up to the to the bark or to the branch and leaf. So if look at how you want your stock or your seedling to perform. So look at how you want it, then only perform what you want it to.
Okay, question from Lee, and there's a little bit of a discussion in the chat box about alternatives to fungicide and Anthrocol.
Yes, yes. What is the?
Some suggestions is neem or garlic.
that's mean using organics. Yeah, you can use neem or garlic, but operating a big nursery, you need more of this neem and garlic to be around. Yeah, of course, we try to do alternatively. Sometimes we even use detergents, uh, to remove white spot and so on. Because detergent actually break the water so that they won't be elastic to actually cover the entire leaf to avoid this infestation. It's a good suggestion. We do implement it, but it's not quite practical in a big nursery operation that's handling 30 to 50,000 of seedling. I think you might need 50 kilo of uh, 50 kilo of garlic for that. It's good suggestion.
It requires a lot more manpower to peel all of
Yeah.
the garlics.
Uh,
Question about the soil medium. Angela's asked if the soil is clay. Carolyn has asked the optimal pH of the soil. Intan has asked if there's okay to add cocoa peat in the media.
okay. Regarding media, it depends on how your soil, where you get soil from. As for some soil have more clay on it, you can mix sand, yeah, actually to break the clay into more uh, pore, porous media. Of course, the pH is within 6.5 to 7 is the best uh, conditions for seedling. The, the good condition of pH improve root development better. And cocoa peat can be uh, implements or can be supplied in, but the best way is to put organic materials where you have grass and so on, to actually provide extra media for microbe to actually propagate. Because the more good microbe in that media, the more the root can actually symbiotize with the developments uh, in the condition. Just like what we want the forest to have a lot of EM or effective microbe to help out to break out the uh, nutrient from organic material.
Great. Question from Raza. If we have not soaked the seeds prior to germination, can we spray neem after germinating? And would that still help?
What do you mean by after germinating? Means you soak it after germination, or
So I think he didn't soak it in fungicide prior to putting it on the seed bed. So he's already germinated them on the seed bed. Would he be able to
mm.
spray on it as opposed to soak it?
uh, if it doesn't germinate yet, it can do that way. But if it germinate, my advice is uh, just monitor first, yeah, because when you a germinated shoot is very fragile to expose any other elements during that development. If we disrupt the shooting during that time, it will actually have a very high percentage of deformity of shooting because you're exposed to chemicals and sudden shock of pH and so on. But if the seed haven't germinated, yes, you can spray it on top of the germination bed.
Do we need to dry the seeds first after it's been soaked?
Well, for us, we just germinate it directly because it will dry up eventually on the bed. Uh, we don't want to prolong the time of exposing to heat and then only put it on the germination bed because that period of time, because we're soaking about 15 to 20 minutes, that's enough for us to actually sow it. So unnecessary to dry it, because they truck up, you cannot keep it. Yeah? But for other orthodox seed, after treatment, you want to stock for stocking purpose, yes, you can dry it. Is fan dry, means air dry, not under the sun dry. Just air dry it, then keep it on stock. That is for orthodox seed like legume and so on. But for dipterocarp, we cannot do that. It's just after the treatment, we just do the sowing and let it germinate.
Okay, so Hafizuddin has 5 questions. It's going to be in Malay. So question number 1, bagaimana siram benih dalam seedbed guna kaedah spray ataupun sprinkling?
Okay, in seedbed, we encourage using spray. Because you do not want to actually move the media. You only want it to be moist. You can actually using spraying or sprinkling. Sometimes they have fine sprinkler. You can do that, but do not use water pour. Especially you use jerry can. That jerry can have a very big water pouring out. You actually moving the media and moving the seed. So we do not want that. Our objective is to keep the sand moist. Only using spraying is enough to keep the nursery bed wet.
Yep. Question number 2, untuk dapat benih yang sihat, lebih baik kutip benih yang jatuh atas jaring atau atas tanah? Jika kutip benih yang telah lama jatuh di tanah, adakah benih tak kena kulat? I think you already kind of...
Yeah, yes. Who's this? Who's the audience? Yeah?
This is Hafizuddin, Nasaruddin.
Okay. Hafizuddin, kalau untuk fresh fruit kan, untuk high performance ataupun high germination adalah digalak buah-buah yang baru gugur untuk dipterocarp. Kalau yang sudah atas tanah tu kita tidak pasti berapa lama telah berada dekat atas tanah. Mungkin dia boleh lagi bercambah, tapi terpulang. Kadang-kadang biji benih yang jatuh atas tanah ni dia akan kering. Ya. Especially kalau lagi-lagi dia jatuh atas tanah yang terbuka. Sebab kepada pokok dipterocarp ni atau pokok seraya, dia akan, bila dia gugur, bila dia engage dia dekat tanah, dia akan start bercambah. Sebab period of bercambah dia, kadang-kadang dia akan bercambah di atas pokok. Lepas tu gugur dan akan develop menjadi benih pokok. Tapi lebih bagus adalah buah yang baru gugur dari pokok tu, itu yang ada period of time atau ada ruang masa untuk kita proses. Kalau sampai saja dekat nursery, then ada masa untuk kita proses untuk mendapatkan ratusan percambahan yang tinggi. Berbanding dengan yang benih-benih yang sudah jatuh dekat tanah ni, kadang-kadang dia sudah kena serangga, kena jangkitan kulat. Jangkitan kulat kadang-kadang dia kita tak nampak pun, tapi bila masuk dalam beg semua kena. Itu yang kita elakkan, cuba untuk elakkan.
Okay, berapa lama rendam benih dalam fungicide?
15 minit hingga 20 minit.
Okay. Untuk lokasi tapak semaian, bolehkah dibuka di kawasan bandar, jauh daripada kawasan hutan? Adakah ia mempengaruhi pertumbuhan?
Kalau mempengaruhi pertumbuhan, tidak.
No.
Sebab pertumbuhan adalah berdasarkan kepada media ataupun tanah yang digunakan. Dia tidak ada faktor luar atau dalam bandar, tapi dia lebih kepada cara kita mengelola media kita dan juga sistem penyiraman kita untuk menjaga benih pokok di sepanjang masa sehingga benih itu sesuai untuk ditanamkan. Tapi untuk ditanamkan itu kita akan menilai logistik dia berapa lama untuk sampai ke lokasi dan berapa apa yang kita boleh cakap pokok ini adakah dia fit untuk travel jauh. Sebab bila travel jauh dia kena ada satu period of time of adaptation atau hardening untuk dia sampai siap tak boleh terus tanam. Dia kena sesuaikan dulu, kembalikan sistem akar dia untuk beroperasi dengan normal baru boleh tanam masuk dalam tanah.
Ya. And soalan terakhir daripada Hafizuddin is, bolehkah semai anak benih dalam tray sayur-sayuran yang kecil?
Ini terpulang kepada spesies pokok ya. Kami pernah cuba untuk dipterocarp, dia boleh tanam tapi dia akan menyebabkan kecacatan kepada akar tunjang. Akarnya akan bergulung ataupun berlipat. Kalau untuk legume ataupun ke kacang, ya boleh. Tapi untuk dipterocarp sesuainya dia akan disemaikan di tapak semaian terbuka, di mana akar dia mempunyai ruang 6 inci, ya, 6 inci untuk akar tunjang develop. Sebab bila akar tunjang develop, dia akan ada akar secondary untuk terbuka. Ya. Berbanding dengan what they call this germination tray. Germination tray dia ruangnya agak mungkin dalam 3 inci saja. Dia akan menyebabkan tekangan kepada akar tunjang dan menyebabkan akar secondary akan sukar untuk develop.
Okay, thanks, Benny. A question from Lee. Apart from raising seedlings in the nursery, what's your opinion for pulling hardened seedlings from the forest floor and transplanting them into big polybags?
It depends. We do practice wiling collection, but our wiling collection will look at the seedling height. If the seedling height is roughly about between 6 inches, it still can be transplanted. But hardens, it will actually cause a lot of trouble where you actually damage a lot of rooting and you take a lot of effort to actually recondition it in a polybag. Of course, there is method of tranching, means you tranch or you dig around the seedling to make a ball, a root ball, and then only transplant it into a bag, which can be done. But it kind of takes a lot of effort to take care of these seedlings, especially you have to shade it out, establish their root system, and then only expose it to full sun. Means you need to put it under shade. Because transplanting hardened seedling from under canopy is actually we are removing them from their microclimate. We are removing them from their actual soil conditions, and we actually disrupt the root system. So we have to recondition it. It will take some time until it actually adapt into the polybags conditions. It can be done, but it takes a lot of effort.
Okay. Question from Sharon, again about the fungicide. How is the wastewater from Anthrocol disposed of as an aquatic toxin?
Well, we do not expose it. We dry it. Means we expose to sun until the entire water dry up. So we can actually reuse the Anthrocol.
Question from Aurelia. Hi, Benny. Have you also tried propagating non-dipterocarp seeds? If so, how different is it from propagating dipterocarps?
Dipterocarp and non-dipterocarp, actually, the process is almost similar. It's just that dipterocarp need intensive care. Non-dipterocarp might not be so intense because some of the seedling is the seed is actually orthodox. You can keep it, air dry it, and keep it. And when you need to germinate it, then you have to treat it. Of course, every seed have different size, some in powder form and some in coated form. So we need to identify how to increase the germinations by treated it. Yeah? Just like powdered form, we need to actually spread it rather than put it in one hole. You have to spread it, just imitate the Mother Nature's distributions of seed. For legume, they have wax coated, so we have to actually soak in warm water. And some seed might have a shell on it, so we have to actually crack it. So all the process is depend on what seed that we have to engage and what the preparations that we need to do to the seed before we do the germinations. Of course, uh, sometimes it's try and error. Uh, we do not know how 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 viable this seed. So sometimes we need to actually sow in small batches, then only find out the protocols for it, then only do the bigger batch of germinations. That's how we actually uh, looking at germinations for preparation seedling stock.
Okay. A question from Ikmal: How to manage rats in the nursery, because we have issues about rats. Any tips?
Uh, this is the same thing that we have. The easy way is if you have cats, let them spray around your nursery, let them poop around, let them make their marking. I'm sure it's actually work, yeah, because you can put all sort of trap and so once batch of rats go and be captured and another batch if you have cats I think that's one of the biological control. Let them spray around, make their marking and then poop around. Eventually they will go.
Yeah. So in just to share a story in Banun, so our nursery in Perak also had a rat infestation, and for some reason, like out of all of the different species, they were only targeting the Shorea faguetiana. So then basically what the team did there instead is on the elevated seed bed, they put like a metal on the bottom, so then the rats
Yes.
can't climb up. So that's one of the solutions that we've come up with so far. Other species that have been targeted by rats, I'm not too sure, but it's for the Banun side is mainly the Shorea faguetiana. A question from Lee: During main nursery stage, what is recommended type of fertilizer, rates and frequency to apply?
um in for fertilizer we do implement some fertilizers. Normally we do organic fertilizer, but we do not have a frequency how to apply it, except we monitor the leaf. When the leaf in the for the seedling stalk or the polybags starting to turn uh, yellowish, that's where we actually supplement them with uh, uh, 3 milligram of organic uh, this organic fertilizer is sufficient enough because it's dipterocarp. We do not need over how's it fertilizer. If you put over fertilizers, we actually encourage weed to grow rather than the uh, uh, what it, rather than absorbed by the tree itself. So there is a NPK 15-15-15 for slow release uh, slow release pellets which you will use. But I find that is too expensive. But I find it the way to manage a nursery is to reduce the operation cost by using the organic fertilizers that are available around us.
Question from Johar: Do you face dormant seed issues for dipterocarps? I'm not sure about dormancy, more about non-viability, right?
Uh, dormant in the top we do not encounter it. Is more likely is non-viability for dipterocarp, because seed for dipterocarp it doesn't dormant, they will actually die. Except for legume, yes, legume there's a lot of dormant seed, and of
Question
course,
from, sorry. Yeah.
yeah, it's okay. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Question from Raza. Relating to Lee's question as well, do we wait until the cotyledons have dropped before applying any compost or natural fertilizer?
Yes, yes. Because as long there is cotyledons, and of course the nutrients still available in their systems, and of course your soil is still viable, means that the organic nutrients still around. So look at performance of the seedlings. You want them to absorb to grow. Yeah. Sometimes, in our case, there's one time in 2016 we have a routine every 3 months give uh, supply this fertilizer. Then what happened is our uh, our stock, our seedling stock, can't stop branching. They keep on branching, and branching. Means there's too much branching and the height doesn't achieve. So what we have to do is to reduce the fertilizer, to encourage shooting on the canopy instead of branching out, to utilize the fertilizer for their growth.
Um,
So so yeah, you don't have to rush in to put NPK to push the seedling to grow. They will show their growth accordingly.
just requires a little bit of patience, especially for dipterocarps. They're very slow
Yeah,
growing species, so patience is definitely required.
exactly.
Um, question from Angela. So when transplanting from seedbed to polybag, height should be about 16-inch. Should the leaf be cut on some days before or at the same time?
During the transplant, you have to cut it. Do not cut it before, or do not cut it after, because during the transplant, limit yourself uh, how much you can transplant of the day. Don't over transplant. It means you take a lot of it and then you can't finish it today and you continue tomorrow. No, you have to complete uh, cutting leaf and transplant the same exact day on the targeted seedling that you want to transplant, because one batch of seedling you're selective. Yeah, you have to select whichever that viable for transplant, but leave those younger seedling to actually catch up with the growth.
Okay, so questions about the seeds after they've been growing, how to prevent, manage roots from penetrating through the big polybags into the soil, and until what age or height is seedlings to be kept in the nursery or in hardening? Any problems with overgrown saplings? So similar in terms of overgrowing and root penetration.
So in the Nursery project, throughout my experience, we have a lot of this encounter as well. It depends for you. In order to prevent them from penetrating the soil, you actually can lay a layer of polyfelt or lay a layer of cardboard, and then only arrange your seedling. And from time to times, over 1 year, you have to actually move it to monitor whether they penetrate on. Sometimes we do root pruning as well in a time that you want to move packing space, or you want them to do secondary hardening and so on. But if you want to do planting, you actually can prune some of the roots outside the polybags. There's no worry about it. There's no preventions how to make the root not going out, because roots roots responsibility is seek out for water and seek out for nutrient. They will look out for any opportunity in the polybags to come out. So the only way is to manage how how they are coming out from the polybags. But how long it can be kept in the nursery, it depends on your objective. Some seedling that we have in a polybag as size as 24 times 26 feet inch size, we actually keep it over 3 years because we want them to become a full big tree and planted in a site for genetics. Then that's why we keep it so long. As long you're taking care of the nutrient, taking care of the water, do their hardening, own it, it will become like handling a landscape tree. So it can be done. But if for restoration project, you cannot do that because you can't carry a big bag into the forest. So you have to take some planning for what height and then how big is the polybag. Then you can actually bring into the forest for planting. Sometimes it for dipterocarp it take about 2 years. For non-dipterocarp it take about 8 months. Yeah. Means pioneer species take about 8 months. Then you can actually take into the forest to plant. It depends on your objective and it depends on how what species you want to stock in. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so that's all the time we have today for questions. I've just gotten a request for a group picture. We don't usually do it, but we can. So if everyone can turn on their videos, and I'm just going to take a screenshot of everybody.
Thank you so much for everyone to attend and listen to my presentation. It's a pleasure to share and also it's a pleasure to learn from you guys. Hopefully we can improvise and as well as looking for opportunities so everyone have a platform to share, to improve and make this world a better place for green.
Definitely. Okay, everybody smile. 3, 2, 1. Okay, there's a lot of people on all the pages. I'm not sure if I could get everyone, but that's as much as I could fit into one screen. But yeah, thank you so much everyone for joining today. I hope that you found it informative. Any further questions you might have, please feel free to contact myself or Benny directly. And yeah, so the purpose of setting up these workshops is to develop the capacity for all of you to learn a little bit more on how to save Malaysia's rainforests and how to safeguard our precious dipterocarp species. So thank you so much for joining. I hope to see you guys again soon.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Stay safe, stay safe.
Yes, same to you
Yes,
guys.
stay safe,
Stay safe over
everyone.
there.
You.
Hopefully
Thank you very
borders
much.
open soon so we can all go to Nursery.
Just tell us when. We'll book the tickets.
Hi, Raza.
Hi.
I was going to call you after. I'm going to call you after.
I know. We shall. Thank you, Benny. Very good presentation.
Thank you.
Learned
Thank
a
you,
lot
Razak.
and realized I made a lot of mistakes too. So thank you.
No problem. We learn from mistake. Same to me.
Yep.
We learn from mistake. Yeah.
Same for me
Because,
too.
yeah.
Okay. See you. Thanks again.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Zoom meeting habis. Habisan udah.
Okay.
Yang last sudah persis termasuk. Iya kan?
Bye.
Udah beli jaket kantor.